Hey guys, so today's video is us installing the Clarkson 2 44-inch ceiling fan. We purchased 3 of them, placed them in 3 different rooms, and I'll talk about how they work at the end of the video. First, you have to assemble the fan blades, and we wanted the white showing, so we placed these brackets on the white side with these little bolts. And once you've attached them, you will turn them around, you will see that this is what they look like, so the brown will not be showing. The next one is the fan motor. You remove the bottom casing of it and you leave that paper there. It says to leave that paper there. And then I'll show you all of the parts. So the parts that this fan comes with is the fan blades, the fan motor, the little light, the casing, and what anchors it to the ceiling.
Okay, so this independent part, which is your lighting, some of you might need to or have the want to put lighting or not, and this is the end connector to like not have light, but we want light for the room. So here we connected the white wire to the white wire and the blue wire to the black wire.
Okay guys, so the next step was removing the light fixture that we already had on the ceiling. We just used a screwdriver, removed the casing, and then exposed the wires. Now the electrician that had installed this, as you can see that they do extensions for some reason, and we actually just removed those extensions kind of to just clarify what we actually had because it was very confusing to see it in such a mess. And these are the wires that we had. We had a black, a red, a tan, and a copper. Now the black one had already been capped by the previous electrician, so we put a cap on it and left that the way it was, and we will only be using the 3 wires that are left. So before we get to the wiring, we need to go ahead and place the black bracket that will hold this entire piece in place on the ceiling. So we went ahead and used a screwdriver and loosened up the screws on this bracket that we had, and we pulled it through the wires and we anchored it and installed it. Now, it might take a couple tries because you do have to loosen up those screws a little, and it takes a little bit of a gap for you to be able to put it in and then slide it to securely put it into place. And you can see that once you're done, it should look like this, and you can just go ahead and tighten the bolts in place. Now for the wiring, we attach the little green wiring on this black bracket to our copper wire, and you will need to check the instruction manual to see what our copper wire is in your house. And the instruction manual does list like green to this and green to that. So you do need to make sure to just don't go based on our copper wires or our color of wires, because our electrician did something funky when he did this. So next, we're going to put the white to the cream colored wire and cap those together, which is actually white to white, I believe. And then we went ahead and we did the black and the blue to this red wire. Like I said, our original electrician had done extensions and there's a mixture of colors, so please check the manual to make sure your wires are attached to the right colors. Now there is this hook where you can hook on the fan motor to the bracket, and that helps you attach the wires and get ready to install the fan motor to this black bracket. Now my husband decided that it would be best to remove the bolts rather than try to kind of slide them in and turn, because he was just having so much trouble doing it, and it is a heavy little piece of motor. So he removed the screws, tucked in the wires, and make sure you tuck them in right, and then he lined up the little holes, and then he placed the screws and screwed them on tightly. And once you get the first one, it's pretty easy, but that's what worked for us when we were installing this. So he goes ahead and he tightens all of them and makes sure that everything is securely in place before he can move on to the next step, which will be putting the cover to all of this once it is all tightened up.
So you put the bolts that are already on here, you don't loosen them or anything. I'll put them in the fat slots and then turn, and I'll lock it into place. you got to make sure that once you get it in, you pop and it locks in. And now it's in.
So the next step is the easy step, installing all of the fan blades using the screws that came with the kit. Once that's done, you will do the fan motor, and since we had already anchored the wires together in the beginning, yes, that piece of paper does need to stay in there. It says so right there. Since we already attached all the wires in the beginning, we can just go ahead and just tuck everything right inside. And that takes a little patience, but you can do it. And when you remove the original covering of the fan motor, there were a few screws, and you need to kind of just line everything up and then screw the little tiny bolts back into place and secure them. The next step is to loosen all of these little bolts that are around the light bulb, and that way you have a big enough gap so that you can put these light covers on. And there's the first one. Once you've slipped it into place, you can go ahead and retighten the bolts that you just loosened up so that you can slip it in.
You don't want to over tighten these, you will crack the glass.
So once you are done with the first one, continue on to the next one. Continue to tighten, and like my husband said, do not over tighten. We have broken them before in the past. And then you can go ahead and use the light bulbs that came with this kit and install those into place as well. I feel like the lighting is adequate for a small room. Definitely a time to test to see if it all works. The fan is working and the lights were working when we turned them on. Oops, we forgot to add the chains, so we are going to add those as well, and those are an easy install. So it's all working, it's perfect. Like I said, we purchased 3 of them. One was in a small second bedroom, worked perfectly. The next one was in another bedroom, which is also pretty small, but that room is extremely warm because of the way that the sun is. So I kind of recommend getting maybe a larger one if it is going into a really warm room. And the third one was in the living room. I feel the living room is such a large space. We should have gone with a larger fan, but if you're just sitting in the living room, sitting there, you can definitely enjoy the breeze from the fan.